but we'll do the play. There we go. We're going to go ahead and start our open session, and we'll do it right now. And Chris will lead us in the play.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Didn't want to cross you up, Chris, but what the heck? Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. We are now into our open session of our Board of Education meeting tonight, and I'm not sure whether there's a modification to the agenda. I don't know that.
I'm not aware of any.
Really? Nothing to modify?
You're disappointed,
at the last moment? I mean, don't we...
You're disappointed, I can
Jennifer, make note of the date. This is the first meeting that we've... but anyway, we'll keep moving. So this is an opportunity for the public and staff to address the board, address the community. And Ms. Bach.
Hi there.
How are you?
Oh,
good to see you.
Yeah.
Nice to see familiar faces. For people who don't know me, my name is Eileen Bach. I started teaching at the high school in 1979, retired in 2008, came back, and I'm currently taking a maternity leave position, and it's wonderful to be back at the high school. So there are three quick things I wanted to say. First of all, the atmosphere at the high school is the best I have seen it that I can remember. It's incredibly changed from when I left in 2008. I credit Jason Trumbull with a lot of this. He's been a wonderful leader. He is walking the halls all the time, talking with kids, meeting with teachers, and it's absolutely been delightful to be back under those circumstances. But I would say, I think we're in danger of losing all of that goodwill as it continues with teachers working without a contract. That certainly will have an impact and continue to erode that good feeling. And so I wanted to speak to two things on behalf of teachers here. I know that under consideration, and I know you can't talk about specifics, but I know that healthcare and sabbatical leaves, I believe I can simply mention those in general. And what I would say is when I started teaching in 1975, my stepfather said to me, "You are now a public servant, and you'll never make a lot of money, but you'll have good health care, and you'll have a good pension." And that's the trade-off. And I think that's the trade-off that teachers accept, and I would urge you to bear that in mind as you consider contract negotiations. It's also quite embarrassing. I was shocked to find that Ithaca is 579 out of 667 districts in terms of pay scale. That really stunned me. So I'm hoping that you can redress this. The other thing I would say is I wanted to talk about sabbatical leaves because I've taught every year since 1975, and in 40 years I have had 3 sabbatical leaves, and they've been wonderful. Not just for me, but they're really like a pebble, I think, dropped in the pond. I think the ripples that flow out we don't always recognize, and so I wanted to give you an example of that. I applied for my first sabbatical leave in 1986. The freshman class had just come from the middle school to the high school. Prior to that, the high school was only grades 10 through 12. And so I started teaching 9th grade. I'd been teaching classes where English and history were paired. But at that point in time, 9th grade English was primarily American literature, even though students were studying Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So for my sabbatical leave, I developed curriculum that would combine literature from the countries where they were studying. Later on, Colleen Ledley and Ross Cragen turned it into the humanities program, new and improved with lots of bells and whistles and refinement, and it's still going strong. So that's one of the ripples from that sabbatical leave. There were 2 unintended ripples from that sabbatical leave. One was the Anglophile exchange program. I reconnected with people I knew in England, and for 15 years, students went from Ithaca High to Britain and came back here. So again, it wasn't an intended part of the sabbatical, but it absolutely was a result of that sabbatical leave. And then the third ripple that I would mention is that when I was in England working on the sabbatical, I saw all of the students there who were constantly out in the community. They were sketching cathedrals, they were going to historic sites, and while we don't have quite as many here, when I came back and was teaching Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, I then took kids up to the Johnson Museum of Art, to the Dogon and Mask exhibits, and while the Johnson had a nice history of working with elementary and middle school, that really kind of began the high school collaborations. And I know, Moira, you had a wonderful collaboration with the Johnson Museum, with the art department, and Mary Therese later on went on to be a docent. So I'd urge you to remember the value of sabbatical leaves. They go well beyond simply that rejuvenation that teachers need from time to time. And I hope there'll be a speedy settlement to the contract. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Bach.
What do we have here? Fine Arts Booster.
That's Martha.
Martha and
Janine.
Jane.
that's not Janine.
No?
Alice?
Alice. I'm sorry.
Alice. And Vanessa. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Alice Wu.
Yeah.
I'm one of the co-presidents of the Fine Arts Booster Group. This is Martha Vermont. She is the former co-president of the Fine Arts Booster Group. And we just wanted to, on your tables here, for the superintendent and the board members, we just wanted to give you your golden passport, which is your golden ticket to the arts in the ICSD. So you can basically go to any performance for free. I know a lot of them are free. But you can go to musicals and the plays and various other things, concerts. There's a really good concert tomorrow. The combined orchestra, band, and choir concert will be tomorrow. It'll be awesome, I think. Probably you guys know more about that than me. Yes, so we hope you'll take advantage of this. You and a guest can go to the plays. I always see Dr. Brown at all the plays and concerts, which is really nice. And I hope we'll see more of you. And the other handout you have, and you guys who are the student reps also got this, is just a little update of the booster group and the kind of stuff we do here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Time of the concert tomorrow?
7:30.
7:30. Thank you.
Does this get toddlers in for free also? They're comfortable?
Sure.
It happens, guys, what it is.
This is a height requirement.
Yeah, height requirement.
You might know.
Austin Nichols. I'm going to move this along.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Are we going to need to separate you two?
So, Austin Nichols.
Well, they might have just signed it, but that's...
And Barbara Bergman.
There you go.
Hi, I'm family liaison at Ithaca High School. I work mostly with the English language learners, but we actually needed an extra body third period, and I'm helping at a global class, which is fabulous. This is a kudos. Brad Benjamin's AP World Class. I urge you guys to go to H202 and look at, I can't even call them posters, they're huge. The kids did research and it's artwork involved, and the finished products are just absolutely amazing. And I really urge you guys to just walk into the building and go into his room and take a look. Really fabulous.
Anything else?
That's everything.
Oh, sorry. No. Right, Judy? You good? Okay. Student reps, and moving on to student reps and moving on to LACS. This is their first board meeting here, I believe. And we have new student reps, and great to see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Lucas Finn.
And I'm Josh Macklin.
Yeah. And
Feel free to update us.
Yes.
Feel free.
Okay, so recently something that happens every year is that a student group from LACS goes to Bioneers. It's Connect for Change. It's a conference in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It's a 6-hour drive. And what happens there is there's different keynote speakers and presentations. And there's a lot of different themes. Like this year, some of the ones that I really enjoyed there was a lawyer named Carl Williams, and he gave an introduction to a keynote and then a presentation about, because he's a lawyer, but he's a racial justice lawyer. So a lot of African American people of color that get arrested and stuff for not on the best legal. It's really hard to explain, but he's way more eloquent than me. I encourage you to look him up. And there's that to a lot of the more sustainable justice farming and ecological stuff, like Trad Cutter did a lot of stuff about mushrooms, and how he is hospital in a bag, because antibiotics, they don't evolve like diseases do, and mushrooms evolve with diseases. And there's all of these certain things that experts present on that we bring back to the classroom and the school, and that we're trying to incorporate.
So right now, high school seniors graduate through our portfolio graduation by exhibition system. And so students, staff, our community is working to apply the same idea to our middle school promotion. We're calling this promotion by exhibition, so that's an ongoing process that we're looking forward to implementing, and we're also developing a digital portfolio to bring all of these elements together and expedite the process.
And we have certain things in our school that both high schoolers and middle schoolers can do together. And one of those things is our pecan fundraising sale. We do it every year to support our spring trips. Last year, one of the trips, I was lucky to go to Guatemala for a Spanish trip, and we went to EMAP and we did all these certain things and like planted like plants and talked to people. And it's to support all these different trips we do do fundraising, and one of the big fundraisers we do in the beginning of the year is selling pecans, and they're like sugared and chocolated and all that stuff, and it's a way for like kind of a friendly competition between like high schoolers to seniors to middle schoolers who are like, oh, I sold this many, how many you sell, and trying to support the school so we can do trips later in the spring.
So our school has a strategic development plan. You might have heard of it. We have 3 main goals, which is to be a diverse and inclusive school, a sustainable and healthy school, and a progressive and experiential school. And so we have action points for all of these. We recently, in an effort to get more of the school educated about this, presented the plan to the school and then received feedback on how we were doing, and we're implementing changes based on that feedback.
So since this is a little while ago, but this is our first meeting. So earlier in the October we had fall retreat. So this is really important for, especially when I was a middle schooler and like for 6th graders to get adjusted. It's kind of, we go out in the woods, and sometimes we go in the woods and play games. It's very it builds connections and bonds between staff and students, and there's a lot of communal things, and there's even a talent show that I was lucky enough to host this year, and that was really fun. And it's kind of a way for students in the beginning of the year just to get together and just relax and take a breath, and then get more productive back into school and kind of gel and that sort of thing.
And of course, the major thing that's happening right nowadays is seniors are working hard on their college apps. Yeah.
Enough said, I guess.
And also, another thing we have at LICS is morning meeting. So this is between the 2nd and 3rd period every Friday and Monday. I'm one of the leaders, so we meet together in the gym and we do pledges, and then any student and teacher can make an announcement. For example, if there's a bake sale or a cause or anything interesting that they want to tell the community about it, and it's just a way for us to get together and touch base in the beginning and end of the week. And this is the first time we're here. I'm happy to be here.
Indeed.
I'm happy there's some jokes. I might try to make one later when I feel comfortable.
Please don't do.
This is more welcoming than I assumed, so
Well, thanks, gentlemen. It's great to have you here, and we look forward to your reports going forward. And you don't always have to make a joke, but you just let it come. It's all good. And but thank you, and Ithaca High.
Sure. So last Friday, the EDD classes took to the water to try out the boats they've been creating in class. Given only cardboard and duct tape, groups of students had to row from one side of the pool to the other. Many kids were successful, but others had to eventually sink and were forced to get a little wet. Friends and fans filled the room, joining together to cheer on their favorite team, while the digital media students got a chance to practice their camera work. And next week, each grade will actually go head-to-head to collect the most loose change. Quarters, nickels, and dimes will be placed into designated jars to build up scores, but there is a twist. Pennies act as negative points, so some sneaky seniors can dump a handful of 1-cent coins into the freshman jar to drop their points. It is yet to be decided what the classes will get. The classes with the greatest value jars will get, but in the end, the real winners will be the Elves project, which all the change will go towards at the end.
We had last weekend our Ithaca High School Brain Team attend their first college-level competition at the Pennsylvania College for Pennsylvania Quiz Bowl, informally known as Penn Bowl. They did fairly well, winning 6 for 6 against college teams, including Cornell, Pennsylvania, and several others, which is remarkable considering they were the only high school team there, so we give big congratulations to them. Additionally, today, Student Council is getting its start with representatives being selected in global classes by voting procedure. So the first meeting will be tomorrow, and give students a voice in how they want to change their classes, school changes, and of course a budget to distribute to facilitate these changes.
In sports news, we had a senior volleyball game last week, and our girls senior volleyball team are wrapping up their season with their last home game. And despite their loss, the team members had a great time celebrating their seniors and saying goodbye to them with an after party. And last Thursday, there were the stack matches for girls tennis at our very own high school courts. And the team did exceptionally well, with Asha Duhan placing third in singles, and the doubles teams of Grace Wolzansky and Charlotte Botts, along with Bridget Nixon and Misaki Tada, all placed in the top 5 out of 42 doubles teams. And we want to say congratulations to them and the team, and with the winning record and these good results, we all ended the season on a good note for the tennis team. And then, as the Fine Arts Booster Group mentioned, we have a collage concert tomorrow night. And 3rd through 6th period today, students of the music department actually missed their classes to rehearse for this. It's the 2nd annual concert of this kind, and last year, if you attended, you remember there was a masquerade theme and all the students donned masks. And this year we have a Forces of Nature theme, and each large ensemble will perform their respective pieces along with some smaller ensembles as well. And the grand finale will be a collaboration piece called Dry Your Tears Africa, and it's sure to be a great time with some amazing music. And it's at tomorrow, 7:30, and we encourage you all to come.
On October 17th, we had the Sadie Hawkins Homecoming Dance, which was the first one of its kind. And so 210 total tickets were sold, resulting in over $2,000 in profit. The DJ was Chase Daniels from Z95.5. And the proceeds from the dance go to Strong Women Impacting Society Club, also known as Swiss, and EE Club. Purity donated ice cream, Viva Taqueria donated some food, and the juniors made $120 solely from the coat rack.
Perfect.
I'd like to, or we could like extend their congratulations because the varsity boys soccer team won their stack championship game against Vestal, 7-0, to remain undefeated and number 1 in the state. And on Saturday, they will play Corning for the sectional championship.
Perfect. Anything else? Thanks, Ithaca High. Atmosphere is apparently very, very good at Ithaca High. Ms. Bach?
Very absolutely, could not be better.
I wouldn't want to say the atmosphere changed dramatically on the graduation of my son, but apparently over the last, what year is this? Over the last 5 years, something has happened at Ithaca High. Those class of 2010 kids, Ms. Bach, I'm not sure, but he had a great.
Dear to my heart.
He had a great experience. Well, on the trip to. Well, Great Britain, England, Scotland had a great experience in Ithaca High, and you guys are having a great experience as well. LACS, good to hear from you all, and we look forward to hearing more. I'm doing the board responses bit here. Judy Max.
A couple weeks ago, I asked if we could have the names, and so I'd like to know the names of the people that are on the brain team.
Oh, yes. So the main A team, which is the one that went to this competition and wins most of our things, is Daniel Zhu, Andre Shakhzadijian, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, Casey Weatherby, who's the team captain, and James Park.
Thank you.
Brett.
A couple of things. First, our friends from the Fine Arts Boosters don't toot their own horn enough, so I'll try and do it for you. They've got another sheet here. We thank you for the passport, but you'll also note, the list of grants in the last year, pretty significant, all over the district in different places. We thank them for that. We've got the IPEI annual report in front of us. Remember to take a peek at that. We appreciate everything that they do for us. And then I'd just like to respond to Ms. Bach, if I could. First of all, pensions aren't touched. We can't negotiate those. Those are state imposed, so I'm sorry you even brought it up. They're that way. Health care, we've not asked anybody to give up a thing in their health care. We've asked for choice. We have not asked for anybody to give up anything, and if you're hearing that rumor, it's incorrect. I want to be clear about that. You also brought up a single data point, and it's unfortunate that you didn't analyze it beyond a single data point. It's if you get behind that to what the average number of years worked by those people, we're much shorter. We have a younger, on average, faculty and therefore a lower average pay than some others because of that. So I encourage you to get past a single data point and look more completely at the data.
I would like to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else before we move on? Thanks, everyone. And I believe we're on to the consent agenda.
I'll move the consent as presented.
Second. No.
Seconded by Moira. We'll give it. You have to be quick around here in order to do seconds. It's not a long agenda, but any questions? Anyone? Anyone? Move, seconded. All in favor? That's everyone, and we have Sean and Ann absent as of right now. So we do have a quorum. We have a quorum of 7. And Dr. Brown, as I flip through the agenda for the board meeting, I come up in its superintendent's report, Dr. Brown.
Thank you for the time, Mr. Anderson. Let's begin with the board. We talk often in these meetings about our governor, Andrew Cuomo, and I think he listens to us on occasion. Tonight I wish to share some things from a proclamation.
Are there guys in my house, Dr. Brown, waiting for me? Is that what's or go? Sorry, Dr. Brown, go ahead.
That wasn't set up, you know. But I do wish to read some of a proclamation that he shared with me. And in the beginning, there are a bunch of whereases, but I'm just going to pick a few to read. Whereas the men and women serving as members of school boards are dedicated to children, learning, and their communities, and devote many hours of service to elementary and secondary public education. And as they continually strive for improvement, excellence, and progress in education. And whereas the members of New York State school boards, local school boards, respond to the educational needs of the communities that they serve, and in doing so, these leaders help strengthen the state's educational system, improve future prospects for our children. And now, well, I'm just going to skip that part. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, do hereby proclaim October 26th through 30th, 2015 as School Board Recognition Week. And I wish to join our great governor, that we too.
You did withdraw the modifier, right?
You just keep going, Dr. Brown. We're with you, man. We're with you.
You're with me. Our team, we wish to express our appreciation for what you do as well. So at your seat, there is a little note. This person wished to remain anonymous, but I won't let her remain anonymous. It's from Jennifer. Our board clerk.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And I, on a limited budget, was to give you a gift, a shirt, a T-shirt, with our mission and vision on the back. So we have shirts for every one of the board members as well. So just a small token of our appreciation for the many, many hours that you volunteer to serve my child, many other children who are watching tonight and their parents, and the young people who are here to observe how you do business, which from my perspective is the best, not only in New York State, which folks have said, but from my perspective is the best anywhere else in the country. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
A couple of other, well, I wish to follow up at our last meeting. We spoke about myself and some board members going down to the New York State School Board Convention. Just wanted to share that we did make that trip, and we did go. We did have an opportunity to present. We presented 2 different sessions, and from my perspective, those went very, very well. And again, a lot of folks are watching our work, so which is it was very obvious at this convention, and other members may want to speak to that too. Watching the work that we do, they're watching it virtually. They're following our work in written form, but they're also looking to us as a model for what is good in public education. And our commissioner was here on last Friday, and she shares a similar sentiment. She had an opportunity to be at Northeast Elementary. She had a limited time to be in our school district. We wanted her to see many other schools, but she only had time to be in one building that particular day, and she was very impressed. She was able to speak to very specific initiatives that we've been able to put in place here to support young people. And from what I'm hearing, she's using those examples in her travels all over the state. So it was a good visit from our commissioner on last Friday. From my perspective, a great visit to New York State School Board's convention as well.
And appreciate that 9 member parents in our PTA went up to hear and speak with the commissioner on Friday in Auburn. So appreciate their taking the time and traveling to do that. That's great.
And we had some teachers and some administrators go up as well for that occasion. And finally, just wanted to ask folks to save the date. We're one of the few districts in the country, communities in the country that has been selected to screen a film, a documentary. It's how most likely to succeed. It's a documentary that I'm sure you'll be hearing much more about over the coming months and years, as it provides a vision for what public education can be in the future. It creates a sense of urgency around some data points and some what folks are hearing from the business world and from universities. And this gentleman, Tony Wagner, and his colleague have put together a documentary, but also have written a book. The PTA Council and I, we're going to be reading that book together as a team and as a group to work through it. But we were chosen as one of those few communities in the country to screen that film. And that will be on December 15th at 6 p.m. And there will be some special guests who will be invited to be a part of the talk back session on that evening. So after the film, we plan on having a panel discussion afterwards to review and process what we see in that film. So much more information will be coming out about that, but I just wanted to get that on folks' calendars as soon as possible.
15th or the 16th?
15th, December 15th, Tuesday, December the 15th. Did I say? And I probably did that inadvertently because we have gone back both of those 2 days. So it's the 15th, not the 16th. December 15th at 6 p.m. in Culp Auditorium. And again, you will see much more information about that coming out soon. Thank you.
Is that it, Dr. Brown?
That's it for me.
Anyone want to mention New York City where?
Yes, I just wanted to say I was one of the members of the board that was down in New York City for the New York School Boards Association. And I was in the audience for Dr. Brown's presentation, and he was assisted very ably by Sean Eversley Bradwell. And as I sat there, I was proud, gratified to be part of this district and the board, and more importantly, I was inspired for the work that we were doing. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I learned a great deal at all of the meetings that I went to, all of the workshops. I chose not to attend Ithaca's because I already know how great Ithaca is. And I have so much to learn that I went to the other workshops. But I was stopped in a hallway by a gal from New Paltz who was very impressed with Dr. Brown and the presentation. And she saw that I was from Ithaca and, oh, you guys are so great. And I was like, oh yeah, I know, thank you. And it was really nice though. And I learned a lot from the other workshops, a great deal about how, my takeaway, it was humbling always, as this board experience has been, but my takeaway is how well this board functions compared to other boards. When I went to the other workshops and heard some of the discourse and conversations and, raise your hand if you have this problem and raise your hand if you have that problem, and whole rooms holding their hands up, and me being like the sole survivor of functionality. It was impressive. So I left there feeling really confident and really sort of good about what I'm doing. I know that I have a lot to learn, as I'm reminded every Tuesday, every other Tuesday. But it was a really great time.
Anything, Brad? Go ahead.
Well, I was there as well. I think one of the things people don't quite appreciate is that while we've raised the graduation rate up to 94% from 78%, we challenged Dr. Brown and his team, and he was putting that data up there in front of the others about the 6%. the question is, who did we fail, and why did we fail them? And willing to talk about that very differently than other school districts are willing to talk about it, and that was what makes what goes on here different than in other places. The expectations are very high, and they should stay high. And I appreciate that you're willing to be challenged that way and don't push back, and your team doesn't push back, that they see it the same way, that we want to know how to get to the next level. And I think that's, Jen, and Myra, that's what people were kind of responding to, is that after they see it, they kind of wish they had that attitude as well, and how to get to it, how to get to that kind of an attitude.
And I will add to that point, Dr. Brown and I were waiting for others to arrive, and just at the end of the day, and we were going to probably go have some dinner, but we were basically sitting in the lobby waiting, and a woman came up to me, said, "Hi, Mr. Ainsley. I was in one of the presentations today, and I did see Dr. Brown before, and a year ago, and she was from a rural district, a few valleys over, and she said that I took your 100% expectation back to my district. It is the pebble in the ocean that Ms. Bach talked about. She realized it was no longer acceptable that there was a percentage, there were a number, there were students that were allowed to not succeed in her district. So she went back, and her expectation now is that 100% of the children in that small district will graduate, and that's the expectation that they are taking to their administration. And it was thought to be an outrageous request by a board of the administration of a district to graduate at 100%. And she also said that she was in a presentation earlier that day, and from a board and a superintendent, and they put up quite proudly that on the second slide of their PowerPoint presentation that their goal was 95%. She said they lost me at that point, and I left because their expectations were not good enough. And so certainly the word is starting to get out that it is our job to engage every child, make sure that they are graduating, and it's not on them, it's on us. What are we going to do to ensure that every child has that opportunity? We can provide the opportunity. We can work very hard to make sure that all students succeed. No longer is it going to be okay in this state to allow some to fail and feel that that's okay. So I think we're hearing that more and more. And that's why Jen was approached, and certainly I was approached. And but people are coming up and talking to me that I don't know. So it's scary. It's New York City. It's but it's so it was. We're getting more and more unsolicited comments like that when we are in groups of others that are trying to do what we do. We meaning all of us.
Exactly.
That's all from me.
So very good, Dr. Brown. So on to school district business and Quebec trip for DeWitt and Boynton kids that are going to go to Canada in about the coldest time of the year.
That's true. Yeah, I noticed the choice of dates.
So I'm just here to introduce Rebecca Stevenson, who is going to talk about the application she has put in. She's followed all our procedures and policies for international field trips. I learned about that. And she has turned all that in to me, and I believe that's in your Dropbox. And she's just going to discuss what she hopes the kids are going to be able to do and to get your approval for.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. I am looking forward to repeating for the second time a trip that we started, we had the first time in 2014. So I started what I hope to become a tradition. So this is the beginning of the tradition of taking a group of Boynton and DeWitt students to Quebec where they can practice real-life French in a real-life setting. So the plan is to repeat essentially the itinerary that we had in 2014. So we'll take a 5-day trip to Quebec City, and we travel by charter bus. We'll leave on the 12th of February, which is the first day of our break, and we'll return on the 16th, which is the last day of our break. And the plan is to, the stay with host families. So that's really, for me, the key point of the trip. There's not a hotel stay. They actually are engaged with Quebecois families, so they get to speak in the evenings with them and have dinner and family activities. During the day, they'll be traveling around doing different activities, whether it's a museum visit or a cultural activity. We do spend half a day at a junior high school there in Quebec City. The students have a chance to connect with those students about 2 months before we leave. They exchange email addresses, and so they have a chance to get to know each other a bit. And then when we actually get there, they have more of a face-to-face connection, which went very well in 2014. So I'm expecting that will also go really well. They seem to enjoy that after the initial weird ice breaking in the beginning. We do some fun things too, of course. We visit the ice hotel, we get to go dog sledding, so we have some really fun cultural activities. And the students in 2014 came back with some wonderful memories, and I hope renewed passion for studying the French language.
How did you find the families?
So actually I have been working with an agency called Prometour. They're based in Montreal. They make all the arrangements. I would like to be able to, in the future, maybe have some kind of more personal approach to, but it's quite honestly difficult to connect with families that are willing to host kids for such a short period of time when there isn't such a big draw to Canadian families to send their kids to Ithaca. The German program, for example, they're able to really, the German students want to come to the U.S. It's a little bit more difficult to find Canadian families that are anxious to send their students to the U.S. to study English because they're learning it.
Who doesn't want to come to Ithaca?
Well, if they knew more about Ithaca, I'm sure they would come. But it's
we need a travel brochure.
Yeah, it's a little hard to sell. But so it's through an agency actually, and to be honest, it makes the planning a little bit easier. They take care of the logistics.
Right. How far afield will the families be?
So they're all in Quebec City or in the nearby suburbs. Each day we all meet at a meeting point. So the charter bus meets all, the host families bring all the kids to, it's essentially a parking lot in a little mall. And then we spend the day together, and at 6 p.m. we all meet again. The host families take, the students say 2 or 3 to a family, so that they're not feeling alone entirely, to have a friend that they can kind of lean on. But our students in 2014 were excellent representatives of Ithaca and the United States. The host families, as well as the tour guides, had glowing reviews. They invited us back very eagerly because the students were wonderful.
Do they get paid? The host families?
The host families do receive a stipend to help offset the costs for feeding, and lodging, but it's not the primary reason that they host. They look forward to having their kids have interaction. So the families are vetted, and my hope is that this year will be as successful as 2014. In 2014, we had 23 students from Boynton and DeWitt combined. This year, at this point, I have 35 students registered already. They are both from Boynton and DeWitt, 22 students from DeWitt and 15 from Boynton.
What grades?
7th and 8th grade.
How many chaperones, and have you got them lined up?
So the chaperones right now, we have 3 lined up. The numbers are I do need to find a fourth chaperone. I have several teachers ready and waiting. So at this point, Michelle Morse, the French teacher at BOE, and myself, Gilbert Antoine will be joining us as a native French speaker, and we need a guy. We need a guy on the trip, so he'll be our third chaperone, and we'll be finding a fourth chaperone in the next week or so. So I have a couple people lined up for that.
And the cost goes down the more...
That's right.
You've reached a cost break point, correct?
So at this point, the price is, we're getting close to maximum for the bus. I think we have 42 would be our maximum with the chaperones included. In addition. So the price at this point is now $794 per person. If we only went with 15 kids, it would have been over $1,000. So the price has dropped. I'm very happy about that. It does encourage families to participate as the price goes down. We've been doing our fundraising every year. We sell gimme coffee, and this year I added Cuba cheese products. Cuba, New York is a New York State producer of cheese, so we've been selling that. And just today I did the tally, and we've sold over $6,000 in product, which will result in over $2,500 in profit. For each student will receive credit for the profit that they've brought in. So that's the motivator. I actually had one student sell by himself $1,300. So he's essentially paid for his own trip. So that's very
great.
That's great.
Cheese and coffee combined?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So the fundraising has been going really well. I would like to say that we have not quite even boys and girls. A lot of times people seem to feel like French is maybe more of a girl language, but we have 20 female participants and 15 male participants for the trip. So hoping for a few more guys there, but we do have some diversity in that aspect. I should point out that we have we have 10 students total that are their ethnicity is other than white, so whether that be Asian or African American or other, we have some diversity there, so I'm very happy to see that. It has increased from the last time we went. We do have a student signed up who has an IEP, so there is some diversity in that aspect. And we have at least 5 students whose language is first language is other than English. So that's exciting for us.
So it'll be third language then?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Good, Chris.
Thank you for sharing all that information. It seems as this grows, you're also eliminating folks who have, any income disparity with the fundraising. They can almost fund their trip. Trying to. And that's, that's always a question we ask for every trip. And kudos to you to convince kids to give up their break to go speak French.
The dog setting is a good sell.
Really?
It's a blast. I have pictures of Michelle Morse and I on a dog sled. It's pretty cool.
And also the really serving all kids. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Everything we've discussed the last 5 minutes here, what we're trying to work towards is inclusion, getting all kids to participate and grow, and very good. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can go?
I'll move approval of the Quebec trip as presented.
Second.
Second by Chris. Judy,
I have a question. You're including Boynton and DeWitt. Was there any attempt to get LACS kids?
I will admit that I have not reached out to LACS.
They do trips all the time.
I can speak. We have a French trip every other year.
I did hear that.
Yes.
I did hear that you went to Quebec recently, but that's my next point. Thank you.
But we certainly applaud bringing Boynton and DeWitt students together that never went to elementary school together perhaps and don't go to middle school together, and so there's connections at the high school that are forming. So that's certainly a big plus. And you need the numbers anyway, so that's a good thing. Anything else? Any other questions? And please seconded, all in favor? That's everyone. Now you can go.
All right, thank you. I meant not go from the meeting, go back.
Well, I'm right, I meant both, I guess. And Amanda, I believe we're ready for less exciting events coming up.
I'd like to say that the budget calendar is exciting as dog sledding. I can't do it. I would be a false self.
You were going to try that, huh?
I'm not. I'm not going to even try. I won't even try. So I think the first item that I'm going to speak to is the budget calendar, which I'd like to say I feel, every year we're getting a little bit earlier and earlier so that we can release this to the public so that people know and are aware of what's to come and what we'll be discussing as we plan for the budget for the 2017 fiscal year. Just so everybody's aware, I try to attempt to do this color-coded. I thank Jen Millman for helping me on that, and we think that it's sort of logical, right? But obviously for the public, I just want to let everybody know we try to put some of our internal meetings there in sort of those bright reds. Those are the subcommittee of the board, the finance committee. We oftentimes are really focused on something that makes up definitely a large part of the budget. And as you can see there, we've already talked about technology. We talk about staffing. We'll be talking about state aid. That's a revenue source for us. The GEA, of course, is back again on the agenda. We'll talk about facilities and utilities, special education, preschool, and then BOCES. And then we also do just a major budget review closer to the budget deadline for the board to approve and take out to the public. The lighter color there is sort of on this screen. It's a little difficult to see, but you'll see online. This will be as a PDF in our budget section of the calendar of the website. You'll be able to get to that website either through the Board of Education link, and it goes right there to the budget, or you can get to it through the Business Services website, and then the budget will be there as well. So there's multiple ways to get there, or you can just search budget on the website. As you can see, a lot of them are mainly around meetings with either with the Board of Education. Those meetings are listed there because they're very important. Oftentimes we're bringing things to the board to vote on, to move forward, to give us thoughts, ideas, suggestions, comment, changes. But also there's a lot of internal stakeholders that we're meeting with. And internal, when I say that, I mean people like directors of programs, principals, teachers. We need to do a better job with students. I consider you guys to be stakeholders, right? So that's really important that we need to be doing more of that outreach. So this budget calendar in a snapshot really is sort of the skeleton, and then obviously this can grow. So if there are groups of people that would like to hear or be part of the conversation, all it takes is just an invite, an email, a call. Most people know to find me. Our office is right here in the board building, and we're very happy to do that. Another important part in terms of gathering stakeholder information is also the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee. We typically have anywhere from 2 to 4 meetings every single year. Those are open to sort of an array of folks, community members, parent groups, booster groups, students, to sit together along with board members to sort of discuss the budget in a more global perspective. And again, everything is focused on sort of where we've come from and then where we need to be. And so that where we need to be in like the 5 to 10 years is definitely adds a little level of difficulty to the conversation. Planning a year-to-year budget is not that difficult. But when you sort of start thinking about that year-to-year budget and that impact on the future, that's when the work really becomes the challenge, and we want to make sure that we do it right. So we want to make sure that we open up this conversation to as many people as possible. And then finally, the lightest color on there are sort of our requirements from the state. And there are many, many mandates that we must follow, whether it comes from the Office of Taxation and Finance to the Office of State Comptroller to the State Department of Education. And so, as you're aware, those will all be listed. Many of them are for Jennifer, many of them are for me, many of them are jointly for the board. So those will all be there again in public. A lot of this will be repetitive as we go through budget presentations over the course of time. So this is really for your adoption tonight as our guideline for the budget planning process for the year.
So moved. I'm moving the adoption of the budget.
Thank you, Judy. Just seconded by Chris. We just need to be clear, and language is a good thing.
Okay.
I like how you're trying to slip the May 23rd Finance Committee meeting ahead of the May 17 vote.
Right.
I like the way you just...
Well, you know what? We can make that change. We'll make that change. Thank you, Brad. I noticed that. That's
I thought you're trying to get that discussion in.
No, that actually, what I might do is not so much change the location of the finance committee, but the date of the finance committee. That might be something that we can talk about at the next finance committee, because I think talking about transportation, even that late in the game, we'll probably have some updates earlier than that. But I think that the sort of the body of the content will be there, but the date will change.
So, because I know I'm going to be asked this, and I probably won't deliver the information as eloquently as you would, meet with budget builders. Who are our budget builders, and what does that?
Yep. So Angela and I, Angela Jordan, who's in the business office, who is a treasure to the district. If you haven't met her, she's just absolutely fantastic. She develops every department and building level budget, a small document for them that's pretty easy to follow around some of the monies that they're able to control within their programs or within their buildings. And so budget developers include building level principals, APs, and directors, such as Sheila McHenry of special education, right, Jim Ellis over in transportation, and the like. And so we, a few years ago, met with them individually. We used to send that out as an email. They'd fill it in. They'd call us with questions. We actually physically sit down with every single budget developer. We go through sort of what they use as their budget. We talk a little bit about personnel. We talk about some of the potential savings, some of the expenditures that are necessary, for example, if they need cafeteria tables, things like that. And so those are the folks that contribute to the process. So those are considered to be the budget developers, those that sort of manage a stream of funds.
And just looking at this and thinking back to when I first joined the board and the difference in the budget process between then and now, just because we come up to, Dr. Brown actually said budget is a year-round process. And we started to gradually working towards that and ongoing, and also moving towards transparency. So there's been definitely a shift in sharing information and making the public aware of what this looks like and where their tax dollars go and what it's spent on. That's all I got.
Chris has obviously nothing else to add. That's all he's got.
Wow.
You gave it your all.
I know. Thank you, Chris. That's good. Obviously had a chance to review this earlier. And as we work through the process, the subject of a meeting may change, the topic, but certainly gives us a framework. Finance committee doesn't really have to worry about what's on their agenda for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's all set for it. A year-round process, but as you stated, there are definite dates that we have to do, get our work done and be on time with, and look forward to supporting Jennifer and her role this year. This will be Jennifer's first election, so when in doubt, help Jennifer and we need to get our work done so Jennifer can do her work to make sure that we are meeting all the legal requirements and we have a legal, open, fair vote in May. What is the date?
May 17th. So it's on the top of the calendar, in the top corner, and then again in the body of the calendar. That's probably
So that's okay. There you go. It's right there.
Right.
So if I actually looked, it would be right there.
There we go.
So I appreciate that. Anything else regarding the calendar. We do need to approve it as with all items, and all in favor? That's everyone. So Amanda, I think, well, you've got your calendar. You have some work to do, and we're going to move on to a discussion regarding the smart bond, and actually the for those keeping track at home, this has really nothing to do with the 2007 bond referendum and all the facilities work that we did. This is not the energy performance contract, which is a totally separate item that we've dealt with. And the smart bond is indeed something else that we're hopefully going to try to take advantage of for the benefit of the district.
That is absolutely correct. And so first, I just want to say that this is a joint effort amongst many folks in the district, members of the exec team. David Brown's joining me here. Also, the facilities team, led by Paul Alexander, has been a tremendous contributor to this work. And so today, really, this will be very brief, and it will serve as sort of a macro overview of the smart bonds so that there is no confusion and there's some understanding really of the work that we need to do as a district to be able to leverage funds that are right now at the state level. And every single district has an allocation. We need to have a lot of work that goes behind us to be able to utilize the monies, and hopefully after this presentation we'll have a better understanding of what this process will look like. So officially, the smart bond what came into effect last year, and New York State voters that went to the voting public, and this is all online as well. So if the slides get cut off, I'm not sure why, but you know it's fine. It's fine. That's okay. Essentially, what the Smart Bond Act did in 2014 was to create a state debt. And so the state debt now is the sale of state bonds, and it was in the amount of $2 billion. And so they sold those bonds, $2 billion, are available to school districts to finance improved educational technology and infrastructure. And so Jennifer, if you could take the next one there. There was a committee that was formed, and it was an advisory committee on education and ways to achieve a smart school. And as you can see here, there's sort of these principles that came into being. And I'm going to say right now, I think the issue is probably because this was a presentation that got transferred, because those are all numbered correctly on my form, so just so you know. It really is 1 through 7.
They are.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing 4, though, because clearly we like it.
We like it.
That's
we like the number 4.
So many of these things you'll see here, we're actually, if you use this sort of as an assessment tool for us as a district, and sort of looked at it saying, how well are we doing, right?
Gotta check them off.
If this committee said that this really is the way to achieve a smart school. You know, we've expanded online learning, and we've embraced it, absolutely, right? We've utilized transformative technologies and deliver differentiated instruction. We made sure that we had high-speed broadband, right, and wireless capability to serve every student. Connectivity beyond the 4 walls of the classroom. We're very fortunate to live in Tompkins County. We still have pockets of places where there, unfortunately, is no access or wireless access or a hub or a network that we can log into. But because we are influenced by universities here, we really have a much higher capability of connectivity when we're not in school. You know, we continue and will continue to provide professional development here in district with Liddy Coyle and her team, and then also with OCM BOCES and their team of technology specialists. Finally, you know, the last one is, or second to last one is the science, technology, engineering, and math, those STEM skills. We continue to work on those. It's something that we will always be in progress. It's not a box that we'll ever check, I think, here in Ithaca. And then finally, the planning, and plan again. You just approved a budget calendar that showed a lot of planning and detail that goes into it. So these are things that are very comfortable to us. This is a language that we speak very well. And so I think the Smart Bond, sort of the principles of it, were very easy for us to sort of attain. And so the next slide. So as I said, every single district under that $2 billion that was bonded by the state, we actually have an allocation. This is Ithaca-specific allocation. As you can see, it's just over $2.5 million. Again, it is specific to our district. So if you think about $2.5 million, we have 12 instructional buildings, and then we have a number of other buildings, right, that are non-instructional. If you think about it in that way, this is not a lot of money to provide technology or enhance technological services or security or safety components to schools. So that plan is going to be key for us to be able to leverage every single dollar, right, that's available to us in the Smart Bond in a way that really is valued across the district, and that recognizes that there are certain district ideals and principles that we all embrace, and that there's also uniqueness in each of our buildings and communities that across our district that we represent. So there were 4 restrictions on how to use sort of these bond proceeds, and I'll talk a little bit about how to get the money and what is involved. But first, I want to just outline the 4 ways that the state said that these are allowable costs. These are things that you could use the Smart Bond, your allocation for. So the first one is the acquisition of learning technology equipment, including whiteboards, computers, servers, desktops, laptop computers, right? And so if you think about that, I put the word complete. Now, it's complete in the sense that we're there, right? We're moving forward, we're releasing equipment, we've gotten devices in the hands of our students that they're utilizing even right now, right, as we speak, which is so great to see. We also are working on other technologies, like getting phones in every single classroom. We're working through OCM BOCES and their leasing program, and you've heard from them in the past around that. So this was one of those, the 4 ways that we could use the money that we said, you know what, this wouldn't be something that we should use our Smart Bond for, because we're already doing that. So number 2 was the installation of high-speed broadband or wireless internet. Again, I put complete there because that was really our entire project over the course of the past year, and even before that, the planning and the intentionality around that. So again, not something that we probably would qualify for our Smart Bond allocation because it already happened. Number 3. Speaking of pre-K, and I know that there are many board members that were really passionate about this, and unfortunately this is pretty specific. It's really the Smart Bond money was able to be utilized to replace transportable classroom units that were serving as pre-K spaces so that you could actually do construction. We, unfortunately, when we had some budget cuts, had to eliminate in-building pre-K programs. Those are not bondable. We can't bond teachers and bring them back and use money from the bond to do that. This is actually around construction. And so this is a lower priority to us because, quite frankly, we don't really qualify.
It doesn't tie back to the 7 keys at all.
No. Right. It's odd, isn't it?
I would just point it out. Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not odd because the chairman of the Assembly Education Committee wanted that particular item in.
And so there it is in this Smart Bond, and you sort of saw a theme, right? And then there's this, right? And it's number 3. So that leads us to number 4. And so number 4 is really where I think all of us have sort of hung our hat and said, this is where we're going to really focus our energies and our planning. And I think it already has led to a tremendous dialogue across the district. And number 4 is around the installation of high-tech security features in school buildings and around our school campuses. And again, to make sure that we recognize the diversity around our buildings, but to also sort of determine what our common value or our common sort of thread is around what would be a safety threshold that we all agree we want to achieve. We believe that this is really where the Smart Bond monies will help us most here in Ithaca City School District. They include capital projects such as keyless entry systems, electronic locking systems, video cameras. Also, the idea of these security badges becoming very functional, right, so that they might be able to be utilized to open or close doors or to allow for entry of things. We also are looking at perhaps the abilities to redesign our entryways so that there's better visibility, so that there's the ability perhaps even to close off an entryway so that visitors could come in, and if there was an issue that we could separate that. But we also are mindful that we want to maintain our welcoming culture here in Ithaca, which we embrace very dearly. And so we want to not only look at sort of these physical environmental strategies and interventions, but we want to make sure that we maintain that professional development and training around our language and our culture of being welcoming and accepting, and we are community spaces. And we embrace that. And so there's really that balance of conversation that will have to happen as we plan for the Smart Bond and continue to look at some of the options for us. The important facts around this, and these are really, really, I think, Brad spoke of this very strongly last night at Finance and Facilities, and it was a great reminder to everybody that was there, and I want to reiterate this. These are funds that will reimburse a district, right? So they are sitting in the state. We have our allocation. We must do a project, get it approved, go through a tremendous number of hoops to get it approved. We have to fund that project. We have to submit for reimbursement, and then we will get reimbursed from the state. This will not touch our general fund. It will not be part of our budget documents. It will be a separate item. It's reimbursable from the state. So I will be sure to include that when we're talking about the budget, but it will not go out to the taxpayers to shoulder that burden of the purchases, because this will be reimbursed. We will, though, have to cover probably interest. If we bond things, everything has to be bondable, we will have to find a way to pay for the interest, because that is not reimbursable for the bonds that we go through.
So that would have an impact on the general fund.
Yeah. That will, and so that would be the line item, that will be the one piece of the general fund that you will see. And so once we get a sense of what the interest rates are, and we look at what the cost will be, that will be clearly identified in the general fund. So it'll be minor compared to the 2.5 million, but it will definitely be something that will be a line item in the budget. There is no on or after date, meaning that these funds, right now, in this state of affairs, right, the funds are available to us. There is no end date. We have been told that we can resubmit plans as often as we'd like and modify plans if we'd like to, as they become outdated or that we need, if there are changes. So just be aware that we can sort of roll this out. We don't have to go all at one time. And then also, we have to submit a Smart Schools investment plan. And that is, again, how we're going to spend the money, costing out sort of the pieces. And that happens with the board's approval after a process. And so the next slide will show us sort of what we must do to develop our investment plan. And so first and foremost, we have to consult and do our planning with community members and parents and teachers through a number of stakeholder group meetings. They say that you're allowed to have one. That's typically not our style here. We typically go out to a number of communities in Ithaca, and we try to gather data. And I know principals are already asking, saying, I would love to be one of those schools where you have a meeting in my building. And so we actually have people volunteering to be part of this process, which is fantastic. We then developed the preliminary plan from that. We've been working with TST BOCES as well. TST BOCES, through their health and safety department, has been doing an analysis of some of the safety features that we might want to look into, some of the ways that we might be able to secure a building. So they've done some analysis for us, so we'll have that. We have the OCM folks, that's sort of technology experts, being able to help us around if we were going with cameras or wireless entries, keyless entries. So we have all those pieces. That will all go into the plan. It will be delivered to you as the Board of Ed, and we post on the website for 30 days after approval. We then conduct a public hearing. That can be before a board meeting, after a board meeting, where we prepare a final plan after we gather the data from the community once more. And then again, that's posted on the website after it's approved by the board. After that timeline, that time frame, we will submit to the Smart Schools Review Board for approval. And they'll either say it's approved, or they'll ask for modification, or they may reject the plan and ask us to resubmit and go through the process all over again. I doubt that last one, considering the process that we have in place, I think will probably be in the approval or modification stage. I imagine that the timeline for all of this, obviously, there's this will be part of the many dialogues that we have throughout this course of the school year. My goal is to be able to have all of this finalized and into the Smart Schools Review Board probably by February, just because I would like to know if there are additional funds that are going to be needed, that if they need to go to a proposition to the voters for an additional bond, I want the board to be able to have the conversation about that, and we have time to educate our public around what the additional needs might be.
So, just to clarify a bit, for the 2.5 million, we as a board can say, okay, we're going to do these projects, but we have to go, we will borrow the money. We do not have $2.5 million to spend, correct? So we will borrow that money, issue bonds, and then eventually the state will reimburse us for the principal, but not the interest that we pay.
And they have not given a timeline as to reimbursement.
Right. So
There have been many people asking those questions, and they said, "Oh, it'll be in a timely manner."
So
this from the group that takes over a year to approve a construction project. This goes through the same people, right?
So,
that was my question. Who's the smart?
Right. So right now, those of you that have been living a separate project, the energy performance contract, and watching this, we are close to a year in the queue, waiting for approval for that project. This will go through the same office, and they said that it's an expedited review process because this is so limited.
So 10 months.
Right. So it's so Pony Express speed. I'm thinking.
Yeah. We keep telling the high school that the bathrooms will be fixed as soon as state ed says yes for the EPC, and so we keep, those freshmen will eventually get bathrooms, right?
We hope so.
Yeah.
We hope so.
So this could cost us approximately $30,000 a year in interest until they pay us back?
Well,
it's...
Sure.
Depending on what the interest is.
Yeah, but that's a taxpayer burden.
Right.
So what we would like to do is we'd like to, and we don't get building aid on these things, right? So typically from a budgeting standpoint, what I'd like to do is be able to, when we go to bond for this, right, that I would time it up in such a way that when we receive building aid from another project, that this might be able to help offset the cost. So that's the sort of the craft that occurs in the business office, right, so that we don't feel the burden to the taxpayers.
How did we end up with 2.5 billion? What was the formula?
That is a really good question. I don't know how the allocations.
Yeah, they use the foundation.
The foundation aid formula? So the foundation aid formula, which does not favor school like Ithaca.
So you mentioned the scenario whereby we would do our community meetings and realize the need in security area and want to be consistent across elementary schools, consistent across all schools with a fob entry or
Right,
whatever.
That looks like, whatever that threshold is.
And that's going to cost $3.7 million. So how does that work?
Right, so that's
That's why she indicated she'd like to have it done by February,
Well, no,
so that
but-
if we have to do a 1 million, under your example, $1.2 million of local money to go to the taxpayers to allow us to bond for that 1.2 million, which we would do long term rather than short term, waiting for reimbursement.
Right, so there would be essentially a split ticket on the bonds.
$2.5 million would be a revenue anticipation note. The other 1.2 million would be a long-term borrowing.
That's right.
RANs or bands are typically very, very short term,
That's right.
and you're looking for, what if we get...
It's going to be timely, Rob.
If we come to the end of the term on bands, you just anticipate.
You just roll them again. You can continue to anticipate.
Yeah, so you can keep rolling. So we would just do it separately. We would have to ask approval from our voters, our community, to do anything above and beyond the 2.5.
That is correct.
Just, again, trying to make that clear.
Yep.
So there's certainly a variety of items that the community has talked to us about, and there's been discussions, and so the impetus certainly is to go ahead and see what we wish to do, and that's and we're going to do that while we're doing the budget and everything else too. We're going to rock and roll.
Answer's yes.
We do a lot of plate spinning, so that's what we do. We're keep them in there.
I'm just trying to get an idea of what the next few months.
Commitments are going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we met our first deadline, that was to do a technology plan for BOCES, and we had a deadline, I think it was of October 15th, which was the first of many deadlines that the Smart Bond has, so we're in the right timeline so far. And now we sort of have a little bit more time, but we also are looking at May 2016 if we did want to move forward, so February to prepare for that.
Do all districts have the same timeline?
They needed to submit their technology plans to New York State by October 15th if they were going to move forward with their bond. Yes.
Okay.
But this is an open portal beyond that.
Right.
So
You
the
didn't
investment
have to.
plan
Right.
can be submitted at any time. Some districts may decide that they don't even want to utilize their smart bond money.
Yeah.
That is also an option.
Are there any ideas of what other districts are doing?
You know, we haven't met as a, typically I find that out when we have our meetings with school business officials. We'll be having, there's a statewide meeting coming up next week, and so I'll be able to find out more, and there'll probably be a tremendous number of presentations as well. So I'll be able to bring more information back from the state level and from other business officials to share when we get back.
D&D, design development, how are we working with, obviously, a few folks to, okay, what's it going to cost to do
Yes.
X, Y, and
Absolutely.
everything else? I mean,
Right.
who's doing
Absolutely.
that?
So we have on retainer, an architect group, right, locally, engineering and architecture group, Hunt architect firm. They're fantastic. Again, we utilize TST BOCES, OCM BOCES, a lot of these projects they've done across the state, so they're very well aware of these things. And also too, we have to follow New York State law, so we have to follow the bidding process and go, have folks submit, bids for whatever we design. So.
But, right, every plan is very customized. We have
Absolutely.
many more buildings, how many doors does the high
That's
school
right.
have, et cetera, all those things.
Right.
it's-
Hopefully we'll get the volume discounts. So.
Yeah. Other questions? It's complicated.
I'll keep you as informed as I can. So
Thank you. Anything else? You good, Judy?
No, I'm good.
We don't have to decide tonight, so you're, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you. This ball game tonight.
By my watch and by the clock on the wall and by the agenda, it looks like we're about wrapping up, and there's first pitch is probably about now, but
I have something I need to say.
all right, Judy has something she needs to say, and Dr. Brown, be careful. Is it?
No,
Okay.
this is paining me, and I vowed I would say it, that I was mistaken, and I am humbled by
We're on
the
tape.
University of Virginia's ability to win a football game when they obviously were not the best team on the field. And they did it in 3 overtimes, but the sports announcer said didn't deserve it. But I am humbled to say I'm sorry that I criticized.
I accept your apology.
I was very hard.
It's a sad day when you lose the Virginia football this year.
And it's going to be even sadder if I don't beat them in basketball.
Oh, yeah, don't. I'm not sure whether to thank Judy or not, but go ahead, Brett.
I just want to point out in the schedule, since Sean's not here, Facilities is going to be meeting at the Bell Sherman Library on November 9th, where Facilities is going to move around to different facilities.
Part of the road
this
show.
year. So, part of the road show.
Yeah.
Just so, please note that one meeting won't be here. That will be out at Bell Sherman.
Anything else? Certainly tomorrow night, 7:30. We were at the concert last year with all 3 huge units at Ithaca High School. If you are, well, you should go if you don't have anything else to do, because it is tremendous. And anything else for the group, for the good of the group, for the good of the day?
For our treat.
Thank you very much.
Policy meeting on
Get your shirt
Thursday.
before you leave.
So policy on Thursday. You can see the list of
See, we're all
committees.
channeling Sean here.
Yes, policy meeting on Thursday, 5 o'clock.
And the November 12th Policy Committee meeting has been rescheduled to November 19th, so.
As noted? As noted. Okay. Very good. Great. Move seconded without objection. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.